never mind. Now you guys can hear me. Let me know how the audio is. Let me know if you could hear me currently right now. Let me know in the chat. Still getting used to OBS and everything like that. Let me try to fix the Volanta. Let's take a look here. Hope everyone is doing good per usual. There we go. Let's see if this works now. Hello. Hold on. Give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to get the Volanta set up here. For some reason it didn't start, so let me try redoing it here. It's not working. Hold on. Come on. I did this last time. I literally have to go out, remove it, add a new layer, add... Jeez, man. Browser. Okay. And then I have to do all this. 1920 1080. Sorry about this, guys. There we go. Let me know if that looks good to you guys. Let's go ahead and get to the chat. Danish Dude first. Welcome, Danish Dude. Thank you so much for joining. Sunset second. Music could be turned down a little bit, just a tiny bit though. For the intro or for the what's it called? This music right now. What's up, Simple? Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the chat. I stopped using it for the exact reason. Yeah. This music right now? Okay, let me turn it down a little bit then. How's that one? Is that better? All right, turned it down for you guys. That should be going good. You should be able to see the airplane, everything like that. We got the OBS or the Volanta set up now. I think that's all good. All right, perfect. So here we are. We are in the Max 737, 737 Max 8. We're here on the ground in Miami. I put back the time just a little bit just to get a nice... Why is the door open? I put the time back just so we could get a good... let's close that. A good sunset. Going over down to the Caribbean. I believe this is Latin VFR Miami, and then we got some payware St. Kitts down there once we land. But yeah, we're taking this beautiful American 737 MAX 8. No ATC on the ground here at Miami yet. We'll see if anybody gets on. Most likely not. But yeah, we're here on the ground in Miami, heading down to St. Kitts, and this should be a pretty good flight. I think flight time is like 3 hours, so we got a decent amount of time. So in the air, we'll go ahead and take a look at the release notes as far as what's changed with this 737 MAX 8. I know IFLY said that they were originally going to try to get it to go to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. We are in 2020 right now. They said their goal was good to get it into 2024 as soon as possible, but they decided to update the plane in 2020 just to clean up some things and make it even better than it already is. So there we go with that. Yeah, no ETC on right now, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and head into the aircraft, and we'll get everything all set up. We'll go ahead and put the HUD away. Let's get the battery to come on. Danish, are you flying with us, or are you just going to virtually join us today? Let's go ahead and get the emergency brakes on. Oops. There we go. We'll go ahead and get the ground power on. And let's head up here, and we'll get the overhead pre-flight done. We'll go ahead and go to heading status. That's good. EECs are on. Let's go ahead and test that. Airspeed stall warning test is good. We got the green lights. That's looking good there. Let's get the yaw damper on. Everything is looking good. Let's get that on, set that up, and we'll get this too cold a little bit. It's pretty warm here in Miami. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and get our weight and balance set up here on the aircraft. We'll come over here, we'll go back, we'll go sim. Sim, where is it? Performance, let's go to weight and balance. Let's go to read MSFS data. There we go. This is in kilograms. That's not going to do for my American brain. Let's go ahead and go back. System page, sim, panel style, general, US system. There we go. That's better. We'll go to Simmods. Nope, not save and load. Back. This thing is so clunky, I swear. Alright, let's go ahead and put in our fuel. So today we're going to be expecting our planned fuel today is going to be 15.9. So let's put in 15.9 and we'll set that for our payload today. Our zero fuel weight is going to be 28.3, so we're pretty light today. Let's go ahead and put this down to a lower number, maybe 4,000 and 5,000. Nope. Okay, let's go 2,000 and 2,000. Let's go 1,500. 126. What do I say? We needed 129. Okay, let's get 4 more passengers on board. Let's see what that does. I think it would be really cool if they eventually did just uplink SimBrief to fuel and payload right here instead of trying to manually put it in the zero fuel weight. I think that's a little clunky. I wish there was a better solution. If there is a better solution, let me know. We'll just call it there. 124. We'll set that. We'll set the payload. And not sure if I set the fuel yet, but we'll set the fuel. That's looking good there. It's just a little clunky, you know. You're boarding right now? Okay, bet. How do you like the IFLY compared to the PMDG 737? They're both different, but the same. Yeah, there's no payload, SimBrief payload, like, input that I know of. You could uplink the route, but as far as payload goes, you have to manipulate this to kind of get the right zero fuel weight that I've noticed, and then you manually put in the fuel and stuff like that. But everything else is pretty much the same. It's really easy. Compared to the PMDG, like I said, they're both different planes, but they're both like really good, especially with the Bora sound pack coming out for the NG. I think they're just both really good planes, in my opinion. It's hard to pick one or the other, hence why I have both. So there we go. All right, let's come down to FMC, pause in it. Let's put in our reference of Miami, and we'll pull over our GPS there. I got the sound pack after seeing your video on it. Oh, no way. Yeah, bro, that sound pack is so good. It's so good. I absolutely adore that sound pack. I think that's one of the better sound packs, and I wish these small details that he put into that sound pack, like putting on the passenger noise, I wish that was in the max, because he did the sound pack for this one as well. So I wish that the features that he put into the NG he could pull over to the max, but we'll see if that ever happens. We'll see. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather here in Miami. Let's see what runway we're going to be using today. Let's see, minute Miami weather ATIS. Real world, they're taking off runway 8 left, 8 right, 9 and 12. So most likely, I believe we're gonna take 8 left, or excuse me, 8 right. Okay, it's gonna be 8 right. Let's load in our flight plan. Let's go ahead and request our flight plan then. There's a max. Hold on. User, yes, allow. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway. The packs, yeah, it is amazing. I think it's really awesome. I think that's one of the most underrated features, at least for me, because when I go to a wing view, I love hearing the passenger sounds. Does the Max have the headphone noise cancellation simulation? It doesn't have the switch, but it does have the option in the EFB. So if you come over to the EFB and you go over to system, I believe it is, or sim menu, ground, or not ground support, sorry, panel style, I think you've got miscellaneous, pretty sure it's in here, headphone simulation. You just click that and you hit set, and then now it's headphone simulation. So I think this was the first plane that he ever did that with. to my knowledge. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, let's go 08 right. And what's our call sign today? American 3261. So let's go AAL 3261. We'll go ahead and input that there. We'll activate, execute. Let's put it in our departure. So today's departure is going to be the Clauda 2 departure, and it's BitTac transition. We'll execute that route. Arrival is going to be nothing. It's just going to be Gabar to runway 25. Okay, let's do the RNAV 25 from Gabar. There we go. Routes, next page, perf in it. Let's also put in our cost index of 6. Our reserves today is 1. And our zero fuel weight is that. Our cruise wind is 290 at 054. And we're cruising today at 390. There we go. Let's go and do a select the temperature of 40. Climb 2. It's going to be flaps 5 departure out of Miami. Set that up there. And we're going to be 147 as a V2. Now let's go ahead and come over to route data and request the winds. Every time I see in a plane, I think of the British person saying it. That's true. Now you got that stuck in my head. I don't think I'll ever get rid of that. In it. That's funny. In it. Well, at least. Alright, let's go ahead and go to forecast. We'll request the descent winds. In it. It's perfect in it. Something like that. Danish, I'm not ignoring you. I don't know what happened to your mod. Alright, we'll load that. That's looking good. Let's go to init. And we'll go to approach. And it's going to be 40 plus 70 is 207. So let's go to VNAV 207. 3,000 above AFE is going to be 3020. And I keep forgetting to do this. I need a board. What am I doing, guys? We need a board. Let's go ahead and request boarding. Execute that. We'll go 250 on here. And can somebody do me a favor and find the CTAF for Miami? N1 takeoff, it's going to be 147. Let's go ahead and load in 147. 118.3. Alright, bad. Thank you. Appreciate it. Alright, let's go here. 118.3. We'll set that there. We'll monitor CTAF right now. That's looking good there. 147. 147. We'll get the flight directors on. Let's go ahead and just go all the way up to 390. There we go. Okay, I just want to make sure the throttle's working. Alright, let's come down here and let's set in our we have auto ATC frequency or squawk, so it's 1174. Perfect. We'll get that set up there. That's looking good. I might get a PC soon. I saw the build guide for, or is that build or build guide for $800 that could run at 1440p if I make some of my own improvements. All I need is a monitor. That'd be good. That'll be good. I like that. All right, 1174. That's looking all good there. everything's all good up here. See if we're loading outside here. Not yet. We'll wait for this to load up here. We'll kind of chill out here, and in the meantime, let's get some beats going here. Let's pull this over. Sorry about that, guys. That was really loud. I'm sorry. That should be better. Yeah, Danshu, what are the specs on that build? While we're loading up, guys, if you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and yeah, make sure to join the Discord if you haven't already. Link is with Nightbot or !Discord. Basically, Dan, just say what the CPU is and tell me what the graphics card is. I think that's just the main two things in the build. The only problem is I don't only need a powerful GPU. I need a powerful CPU for beaming as well. Yeah, exactly, Sunset. Oh, looks like we got an A321 over there. Let's see, where is he going? We got a couple people on the ground here. So that's an American 318. He's an Airbus A321 Neo, and he just got in from St. Kitts. That's funny. As we're departing St. Kitts, and we got a 737-800 kind of on the other side of the terminal going over to Charlotte. Interesting. And then we got an American that just landed, just came in from Orlando. Cool. So how's everyone's day going so far? I hope everyone's day is going good. CPU is a 7400F. I don't think I've ever heard of that, but I'm sure it's a good CPU. I might use the 7800 XT. It's $150 at Micro Center. Yeah, I used to have the what's up, D1 Aviator? I was gonna say, dude, if it's a 7800 XT for $150, go get it right now. Yeah, I used to have a 7800 XT before I got the 7900 XT, and it was really good. For $150, I was like, bro, get off the stream and go buy it right now, because it's not gonna be there for long. That was not gonna be there for long if that was the case. That'd be insane. I need a good $400 CPU or a CPU. I have the 7800 X3D. I don't know how much it's going for right now. I got it in a Micro Center like pack, you know what I mean? I have it was like the CPU, RAM, and motherboard was all in a pack. I was gonna do that, but I need Wi-Fi 7, 64 gigs of RAM, and the bundles either have the wrong motherboard or wrong RAM kit. Oh, interesting. Is this 7600 X3D good? I've only ever heard about the 7800 X3D when I did my research. I just found the bundle at Micro Center. I just got it. Yeah, that's true. It depends on what GPU you're gonna get in the end. I think that would be the main thing. I have the 7900 XT and I love it. It comes with, I believe it's 20 gigabytes of VRAM, and let me tell you, the 20 gigabytes of VRAM, definitely you notice a difference, especially in games like Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024. I feel like it uses a decent amount of VRAM, and I think it's been proven that cards with more VRAM perform better. Because I'm running at 1440p.
Traffic American 4, American 28, correction, 2187 on 14 mile final. So 8 right, minor traffic.
He's an A321 coming in from Charlotte.
If the American air traffic is called, it's like a pretty just cruising departure right in front of you.
Jeez, dude.
You're gonna have to say that one more time. Last aircraft.
For that point, call back the final, could we get a departure priority or arrival?
I'm 12 miles out, so yeah, I'll slow it down for you. American 2187.
Gotcha, thank you, it'll be quick.
That's crazy. Alright. While we're finishing up loading up the passengers, let's go ahead and head over
Miami
here.
traffic, American 2955, taking off on runway 08, Miami traffic.
Let's go ahead and pull up the charts. Let's do a departure briefing. We're to be pulling out here, spot 5. We'll probably take November 10, Mike to a full length, runway 8 right. Today there's a hot spot 4. Let's take a look to see if the hotspot explanations are not on here. Let's go over to taxi. Let's go over here. Hotspot 4 is two runway ends are close together with multiple hold short lines that are dependent upon runways and use C inset. Okay. So we'll make sure that we're going to the right holding short line for runway 8 right on departure. Anything below 80 knots, we'll go ahead and reject. Anything above 80 knots but below V1, reject with fire, failure, fear, or shear. Anything above at V1 or above, we'll go ahead and take it up in the air. And we'll take it up in the air and decide what we want to do after that. Probably take it back to Miami. Probably go on runway 9 or something. For our departure, doing the Claudia 2 departure. So Claudia 2 departure off of runway 8 right. Reading through the inlet. So accelerate to 250 as soon as possible. Top altitude's 5,000. Off of runway 8 right, it's going to be climb 092 to intercept the course 124 to Jamba, and then track 124 to Kabola, and then 115 to Claudia. So there we go. We're going to depart here, Jamba, Kolba, Claudia, and then head out to Jaguar. So yeah, that's the departure for you. Let's go and get the APU on. It's going to be a beautiful sunset.
Miami traffic, American 2955 at 1,500 for travel 310. We're on the altitude departure, Miami traffic. Final call.
This guy's mic is so loud.
Miami traffic, American 2187, 5 mile final runway 8 right. American 2187, Miami traffic.
Alright, let's go ahead and disconnect the AC and the ground power. We'll come back here and we'll go to ground support. We'll disconnect the electric, disconnect the air conditioning. We'll get this on the bus and we'll go ahead and hit set. We'll come over here and get this all set up there. Get the AC on. See how they're doing on the boarding process. We should be basically done here. Oh, it is done. Perfect. All right, let's go ahead and request pushback and departure, and let's get on out of here, guys. All right, let's get the anti-collision light on. We'll go ahead and pause the music real quick here. Yo, what's up, your SimCFI? Welcome to the stream, man. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining in. Let's see here. That's looking all good. That all disconnected, all the doors are disconnected. We'll go ahead and release the parking brake. Oh, are they not connected? I thought they were. There we go. Okay, let's set the parking brake. Nose right, tail left, that's good for me. Wait for them to be done raising. Should I post a build in here or in the Discord? Dangerous dude, you have like 10,000 builds. I feel like you post a new build every day. Sometimes that's what happens when someone builds their first computer. I think that's what happens. They get analysis paralysis and they figure out all these different builds that they can do with a certain amount of budget. And sometimes you just got to build one build and just stick with it, because you're not going to find the perfect build for the perfect amount of money. I think you just got to go for it, and you just got to choose one build that's in your budget and just do it. I think that's the best way to go about building your first PC, is just stick to one build that you found that's in your budget. Because you won't find a perfect PC. There's always going to be something better. I promise you. I don't know why G6 pushed me nose to the left. What panel type? I don't know what panel type I have. I just got it was on the Black Friday deal. It was half off. And it was a 34-inch, 1440p, 170 something hertz monitor. Alright guys, let's go ahead and start number 2. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's start the engine with this lady right next to it. Sometimes GSX is interesting. I got it for like 200, but I think it was supposed to be $400. This monitor. Got this American A321. I think this is the one that just came in from Orlando. Yeah, it is. Hopefully they're pushing us on this line right here and not where he is. That'd be much appreciated. Alright, motoring is done. Let's go ahead and get going here. Oh, nice. They're pulling into the gate right there. Maybe. Or, yeah, they are. I think it's QLED. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Alright, we'll set park and brake here. Park brake, you're clear to disconnect and go to hand signals. Got an Airbus A320. I wonder if they're trying to get to one of these gates over here. Parking right next to us. Alright, let's go ahead and ventilate and isolate. Alright, ready for the signal. Let's go to start number 1. Peace out. They give us the hand signal. And motoring. Motoring complete. Let's go to introduce fuel. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, especially for the Boris sound pack in the 737 MAX. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Welcome. All right. That's all started up there. That's looking good. Let's get to continuous. We'll get the generators on. We'll get that on. We'll get that to auto. We get that going there, this, that. And we'll give flaps 3 or 5. The industry you're proving to yourself why you were no longer a mod. Miami traffic, American 3261 taxi, runway 8 right, November 10 Mike. Alright, there we go. Now we'll turn here on mic. Beautiful golden, man. Look at that, reflecting off the engine. Golden hour. Beautiful golden hour, beautiful golden hour. Alright. Alright, let's see here. According to VATSIM, we got one person approaching into Miami. He's pretty far away though. And I think that's it. So we'll be able to kind of just take off straight out of here. Yeah, I think monitor's definitely a big deal for flight sim setups. Alright, that traffic is pretty far away. That's approaching into Miami. So let's go ahead and line up and we'll take off. Miami traffic, American 3261, take it off runway 8 right. Yeah, they do have flight sim gear. That's where I got my my TCA yoke. All right, guys. If you're a member, make sure to use the toga emoji in the chat. If you're not, that's okay. Let's go ahead and get this going. Get all the lights on. Get the strobe lights on. Wing lights on. And let's get out of here, guys. Toga. Here we go. I have a yoke and side stick. I have both. 8 knots cross-checked. V1. Rotate. Positive, ready to climb. Gear up. Go ahead and get autopilot on now. Actually, you know what? We don't have ATC. We don't have ATC. I'll hand fly. I'll hand fly for a little bit. I haven't hand flown in a little bit just because we've been busy with ATC and other flights. No, I have a yoke, and I have the TCA yoke, and I have the TCA Airbus stick. Those are my two main ones, and then I have the SideTech throttles, and then I have CH Pro pedals, and then I have the PFP from Windwing. Go flaps up. Looking good, looking good. It really is the knight in shining armor. I agree. It's an amazing, especially with they announced obviously the autopilot panel. I definitely want to get that for sure. I think that'll be hopefully the next thing that's 737 related that I'll get. We'll see. That'll be a lot of fun for sure. I've been trying to reach out to them to see if they'll become a channel partner, but haven't heard back yet. We were talking about it initially, but even before the PFP came out, and then the conversations kind of fizzled. I should get better internet? What do you mean? There's a monopoly when it comes to internet providers over here, so I can't really choose what internet provider I have. There's only really one option. Yeah, it's just the way it is right now. I could try to afford to get unlimited data, but that costs an extra $50 a month. And right now the channel isn't producing that, so it's hard when I want to pay for other things and I have other bills to try to upgrade the Wi-Fi and make it so that I don't have to, you know, stop streaming. But we're close. We're close to being able to create a pretty good income from the channel. My goal is to get $100 a month from the channel consistently. And once we hit that, I'll definitely be interested in trying to upgrade the channel with stuff like that. I can't tell you that it's an L job. I see airplanes every day, and it's fun. Definitely not an L job. I'll pay for what I do for sure, but alright, let me do something real quick here. Second, guys. One second, guys. Sorry. I'm trying to get this this link here. Sorry. Anyway. The PvP L job couldn't relate since I don't have one. 658. 687? Huh? What's up, Knowledge Factory? Welcome to the stream. Something's wrong with my keyboard. What? Which aircraft is your favorite? I would say in the sim or in real life. I would say the Max is definitely my favorite right now in the sim. And honestly, in real life. As far as narrow bodies go, I like to separate my favorite aircraft from narrow body and wide body. I would say this aircraft is going to be my favorite when it comes to narrow body, even in real life. Just hearing it start up, because I work at the ramp at my local airport, so just hearing them start up is just my favorite thing to do. Wide body aircraft that's currently in use, I would say, is either the 777 or the 787 for sure. Aircraft retired, probably the 74, yeah. Bro works for 11 hours in real life and then comes home and works another 11 hours. What can I say? Today I had a shorter day. I only worked 4 hours today. I'm not in the military, no. Oh, and in military? Like, what my favorite plane is in the military? Oh, in Air Force. The F-16, I would say, is my favorite fighter. So yeah, yesterday, guys, I worked, so I was originally supposed to only work 8 hours, but I worked 11 because we had a weather delay. The aircraft's destination airport had really bad weather, so we had to hold out for that. AC-130 is really good. So worked 11 hours, couldn't sleep today, so I woke up around like 3:30, tossed and turned until like 5. And then before I had to leave to work at 7, I went out and I DoorDashed, because I'm a DoorDasher, just get extra money. And I DoorDashed from 5 till 7, and then from 7 I went to work, and I worked from 7 till like 12ish. So been grinding, been trying to get some money to invest in my actual real life flying. Lincoln 4070 and 9800 X3D with 64 gigs of RAM. Hopefully it will work fine in 2024. Yeah, I think it should. That's what I'm trying to do, man. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to grind, to say the least. And I definitely want to try to get this channel to be better in every way. That's why I wanted to stream twice this week. So we're actually going to be... Don't you get tired? Knowledge Factory, bro. I am tired. But I took a nap earlier. I had some coffee, so here we are in the stream. I think, so we're going to be flying this. Obviously, I wanted to get the stream out with the new update for the Max, since on Thursday, we're going to be flying a VATSIM event in Des Moines. We're going to be flying an Allegiant A320. But the event airport, the event airport is Des Moines. Do we fly into or out of Des Moines? If they have all the ATC, what should we do? Should we fly into or out of the main hub for the event? Use that as a starting port and oh, that's for the PC. Yeah, that'll be good. That build is costing me around $2,100 with the monitor and keyboard. I think this might be my final build, not gonna lie. And that's what it needs to be, I think, because if you think about it, every year or every 2 years, there's going to be a better graphics card. There's going to be a better CPU. There's always going to be something better. That's how technology is. That's how the iPhone is. That's how Androids are. That's how things are. every year or so it gets better, new features, whatever. And so every year you get caught up in being like, oh my god, I need to upgrade. So it's like you get caught up in the cycle, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to be like, oh my god, my stuff. And a famous PC YouTuber, Jay's 2 Cents, if you haven't ever heard of him for some reason, go make sure to follow his content. He has a lot of good videos about building PCs and information. Jay's 2 Cents famously said, just because, basically, this is not an exact quote, but basically, just because they release a new product, a new graphics card, new CPU, your PC didn't lose the FPS that it has right now. So, for example, let's say right now I'm getting 30 FPS. Let's just say. And I like 30 FPS. It's pretty smooth. I'm not miserable with it. I feel pretty happy with it. And they released a new graphics card that says I'm going to get 60 FPS with it. Would I like 60 FPS? Sure, I would love 60 FPS. But the thing is, I am good with 30 FPS. So why am I spending $400 more just to get 60 FPS if I'm honestly pretty content with 30 FPS? Just because the new graphics card came out doesn't mean my system automatically degraded and now I'm getting 20 FPS. You still get the same performance. So to buy up the hype and think that you need to keep rebuilding your PC to the latest, you're just going to get caught in a cycle, and you're just going to keep paying for a better system. Like, my system has been the way it is for probably 2 to 3 years already, and it's been doing great for me. I get over 200 FPS in Call of Duty. I get 200 FPS in all my other, FPS shooters, whatever, and I get like 30 FPS in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I have no need to upgrade my PC right now. It's fine. Knowledge Factory, I have the TCA Airbus stick, but I'm using the TCA yoke right now. Navia, that's 100% what it is, man. It's analysis paralysis. Have you ever heard that term? Analysis paralysis. And that's what happens when you build your first PC. You're so maybe new, if that's the right word. You are so new, or you just want to get your PC perfect, but you'll never have a perfect PC. I guarantee you, whatever parts you select, 30 other people will build a different PC that's either cheaper or better with the same amount of money, or with the same, specs. So like, you are so concentrated on trying to find the perfect spec PC for the cheapest amount of price. There's probably thousands of combinations you could do, picking different parts for a PC that makes it better and cheaper. But the point is, just pull the trigger on a decent build that you could afford, and you can always upgrade in the future. Just build yourself a build that you would like to have for at least 2 years. And a lot of these graphics cards that are coming out nowadays, they'll last you multiple years. So I think it's just really important when you're building your first PC, just pull the trigger. Because everyone keeps building parts and keeps asking, oh, like, what about this part? You just gotta pull the trigger. I can't tell you, this, you should do this or you should do that. It's all up to you at the end of the day. All right, guys, for the, like I said earlier, for the Des Moines, VATSIM event this Thursday, we're going to be flying the Legion A320. Should we fly into or out of the VATSIM event airport, which is Des Moines? Should we fly into or out of a VATSIM ATC? Should we fly into a lot of ATC, or should we fly out of a lot of ATC? What do you guys think? Fly into knowledge? Alright, bet. We'll fly into. I'm trying to find a good flight. hopefully Allegiant flights come in from Florida. There's one from Austin. That wouldn't be like crazy bad. John Wayne. Punta Gorda. Alright, should we do... I'll let you guys decide. Should we do Houston, Texas to Des Moines, or should we do Austin, Texas to Des Moines? Des Moines, Iowa.
Miami traffic, American 9000, turning right base for runway 8 right, full stop, Miami.
Oh yeah, I don't have to listen to this anymore. Hold on. Yes, I have my private pilot's license, Knowledge Factory. So yes, I do fly in real life. What's up, Marco? Welcome to the stream. Alright guys, since we're going to be flying over water, I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn off the photogrammetry sheet to hopefully be better as far as taking up internet. You're bored at school? Gonna be a night landing into St. Kitts, guys. Let's see here. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the... So we got, let's see, 13 pages of fixes. I've been good. What? This? Hold on. There, it's in the screenshot. I put it in the screenshot. Alright guys, let's take a look here. This is what we got for the, it's in screenshots. I put it in the screenshots of the server. Alright, let's take a look at this. These are all the changes with this new version of the new Max update. So this is going to be version 1.03, I think 03.1 technically, because they had another update right here. So let's see. CDU keyboard J triggers the animation of the letter A. I don't think I've ever noticed that. EFB airport map to freeze the aircraft. I'd never used the EFB map. Yaw damper light delayed increase from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. Okay, that makes sense. Didn't really notice that before. Length of engine BRM time is dynamically adjusted according to the external temperatures. When the temperature is extremely low above -10 degrees, the BRM could reach up to 3 minutes. Oh, that's sick. So they increase the bow rotor motoring time when it's colder outside. That's really nice. Danish dude, shut up. Thanks for adding the delay between the... What the heck? What is this? Thanks for adding the delay between selecting ground and start valve open light. It's a bit too long now, but about a second, just based on my impressions on it. Also, could you get the two indications? The instant the start valve opens, there's a lag there too in the IFLY, which shouldn't be there. Oh, I guess they fixed that. The N1 fan visibly snaps immediately to high speed outside as soon as there's N2 rotation, although N1 indicates that. Okay, interesting. Seems like they just fixed a bunch of ticketed items. The brake temp caution light is still present even though the brake temp sensor is deselected. Okay. These are just some small stuff. Aircraft without VNAV armed. Interesting. Okay, engine acceleration slow from idle at low altitude takes 20 seconds to unstick when adding thrust. Flight idle should prevent this at low levels. Okay. With seatbelt sign on. Seatbelt sign deliberately left in auto. No chime is audible when the flaps or gear are extended. It still chimes when turned to off after parking, so the sign is coming on. It is not dinging. Interesting. Quick aligning, switching the iris from aligned then back to nav and re-entering the coordinates is resetting a full align timer and taking 10 minutes. Quick align should only take about 30 seconds after the switching. I don't think I've ever noticed that. I've done a quick align in this plane. Postmaster message. Okay, that's required message. Fuel used 0. Key bindings, plug in, brake temperature, pressure light, PDF small details, window heat, low light on too soon. GLS warning lights, radial altimeter not correct in the flare, black box bug in the VDC, test bug, HDC. Okay, interesting. Runway remains value. Okay, HUD is too bright. On the dimmest setting, you should ideally be able to have the symbology very faint, barely visible as a ghost image. I'm guessing this could be a sim limitation though. Okay, we will fire. Reverse bug problem. $25 for 30. As maneuver correct. Okay, the engine flame out. Min radial minus 1000 after scrolling below 0, then up. Interesting. I don't have issue. Overflies waypoints. Aileron. Copy. Takes the taxi lights and landing lights are sending inverted information into the simulator variables. Keep adding seatbelt signs down. All small stuff. It seems like small but buggy stuff. Floating text in the VC. Floating text in VC. Insufficient fuel message. I've gotten that a lot of times when it shouldn't be. The insufficient fuel. VSD black box, icing effect. Oops. No off schedule descent light. Supply deck temperatures, speed brake light. Highest frequencies, problem with altitudes, autopilot switch authority, RNAV departure incorrect. Icing effect windshield, fault setting, flight speed bug, typo incorrect. All this small thing. I don't think I've ever noticed any of these. Okay, so here's some new stuff. Added new trim wheel sound. Slow versus fast is different. added plus 100 call out, added reversed lock crack sound after 2 seconds after touchdown, reworked the spoiler auto deploy sound, and added spoiler auto stow sound. Added click for putting throttles to idle, added cockpit rain sound, general bouncing as per feedback in the Discord server, decreased cockpit electrical background whine, fixed R1 service door missing open and close sound, fixed landing gear in the cabin not audible. Interesting. Resolve following SDK issues. Wing NTS switch won't active on first click. Interesting. Well, there's that. There's all the changelog. There's all the changelog. Definitely a lot of things. What's up, Jacob Reviews? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Alright, let's get some mood lighting going here. If it's your first PC, I wouldn't worry about overclocking though. Like if it's seriously your first PC, then why overclock? Why go through the hassle? Let's see. Let's go ahead and turn on night and sleep, both zones. We'll turn this off. Turn this off. If it'll let me. There we go. I mean, it's not a hassle, but I feel like overclocking is just, I don't know. It's just not worth it, I feel like. Especially if you're building your first build. Take another screenshot of what? I was seeing another streamer was using ChatGPT to ask him trivia questions. Should we do trivia questions? Wavelength? You guys want to do wavelength? We could do wavelength, I guess. Hey, industry, I've seen what water-cooled graphics cards look like. Punta Cana approaches online. Too bad we're not going to Punta Cana. Yeah, Boeing's great. Love a good Boeing. You're taxing so fast? Where were you taxing that you beat an Airbus or beat a Southwest? Spirit Airlines? That's funny. Thursday should be fun. We're going to be going into the Airbus, so that'll be interesting to switch it up. I haven't flown the Airbus in God knows how long, so It's definitely going to be a bad landing, let me tell you. I'm definitely not going to be able to fly that as good. Airbus, your beloved. Yeah, we'll see. Cessna, your beloved? That's crazy. Girls researching flight school. It's so hard to get into the airline if you just go to a Part 61 school. It's so hard to get into an airline if you just go to a part. Basically, you have to become one, and you need to go to college for it, even into the legacies. Jacob, you're talking about in the United States? There's plenty of people that have gone to mom and pop shops and been able to go to the airlines. That's not just the 141 schools that are going to the airlines. And I have an exciting announcement. I'm in the talks with a partnership of a specific network, and I'm going to be starting a course. So it's going to be free. This one's going to be free. It's going to be a private pilot's license, a virtual private pilot's license course. Basically, I'm going to go through my logbook right now, and I'm going to go through every single ground lesson, every single flight lesson that I did, translated from real world information into what sim pilots would need to know. So it would be a free resource for those of you guys who are interested in becoming a pilot or just want to know more about being a pilot and what information would you need to know. And we'll be doing a lot more GA flying with that. So I'm going to be starting that course, and hopefully sometime soon. I'm still in the talks with the network that I'm going to be partnering with, and I'm basically going to show you guys how to fly properly and realistically for those of you guys who are interested in getting into a career flying. So I think it would be really beneficial for those of you guys who are just interested in flying, because I really want to show you guys how fun it is, how easy it is, and get people motivated to not just fly in the simulator but fly in real life as well. So I'll be working on that. Because I got my private pilot's license from the 61 school. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing. I'm going to be working through that. I'll be kind of like, some of the videos will be just like a slideshow / kind of ground school, if you will. But other videos will demonstrate things in the simulator. So you can kind of pick and choose. I'll put it into a little playlist. Therefore, you can kind of choose what videos you want to see and what videos you don't want to see, so you don't have to worry about actually doing it in order. You can, and that's, you know, what it'll be meant to be is in order. But if you want to just skip to the flying part, you just do the flying part, and you don't have to worry about the little details that we talk about in ground school or other things like that. And obviously, I'm not an instructor, right? I just have my PPL, and I have over 60 hours of real life flying experience. So not the most experienced pilot in the world by any means. I just figured it would be really beneficial to not only me but to you guys, because in my opinion, when you are able to teach a subject, that's when you learn the subject even more. And I feel like right now I want to really deep dive into flying in real life, just because I've been flying in the sim for so long. I want to deep dive into flying in real life and teach people how to fly in real life. So I think that'd be really good. Yeah, I have my associate's degree. I did not get a 4-year degree by choice. I chose to, instead of getting out loans, to get a 4-year degree, which airlines are not actually requiring too much anymore. I got an associate's degree, and I'm putting my money towards flying. And then, if need be, I'll get an online degree if I have to, once I get hired at a regional or something like that. If like a major airline's requiring bachelor degrees by then, I'll make sure to get a bachelor degree. But for now, I'm focusing on the flying for sure. Danger 2, get out of here, man. Get out of here. Yeah, 100%. I think I just wanted to get my, because I'm already 24, right? So it's like I'm kind of behind the 8 ball when it comes to getting training done and getting all that stuff done. So right now I'm just really trying to grind it out and use all the money I could get towards flight training. That's why I'm trying to work extra hours at work. I'll probably be working 54 hours a week at work. I'll probably be doing that. I'll probably be door dashing. Obviously the channel. I'll have the channel, which, you know, gets me some revenue. So I appreciate you guys very, very much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for tuning into the live streams, just watching videos and stuff like that, getting me to 1,000 subscribers so that obviously I could earn somewhat of an income. Words cannot describe how thankful I am for you guys, and I really do appreciate you guys supporting the channel and just coming in to watch, just coming in to like the stream, and it really helps me out. It really does motivate me to keep going, because I know there's definitely been some days, even before 1,000 subscribers, even after 1,000 subscribers, where I'm just like, maybe I should just stop on this YouTube channel stuff and just quit. But I appreciate you guys very, very much. You got banned at Queso's Discord server? Oh god, that's funny. Well, I appreciate the effort. Get into a pyramid scheme? I should, huh? Deserving of a mod status? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I want to do VATSIM with another person in the plane. That'd be cool. One day when Ethan's channel gets massive, he'll probably forget about us. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Let's see, where are we at? We're over the Bahamas right now, obviously. Over Cape Santa Maria. Past Cockburn Town in 1 hour. Oh Lord. Am I? See Crooked Island. Pirates Well. Turks and Caicos. Cockburn Town, there it is. Cockburn Town. That's funny. I never want to hear Cockburn Town ever again. They have an airport. We're going to divert. We're actually gonna go to Cocktown, boys. Look at that, dude. Nice sunset. It's gonna be dark. I definitely need the HUD probably for landing. Unless we roll it back to sunset again for our landing. Up to you guys. We can keep it at night though, if you want. I appreciate everyone being here. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm trying to see if these new whatever they called labels work, because right now they say no data on every single one of them. So I'm waiting for somebody new to subscribe to see if it works and to see even if my alerts work on OBS, because I have no idea. I haven't gotten one alert yet on OBS. I might have to go back to Streamlabs OBS. I have no idea yet. You want to watch a video about VATSIM pilots? What do you mean? this is.
Pretty fucking nerdy, but that's why we're talking about the types of pilots you're gonna encounter. There's some funny shit, boys. The ghost ship pilot, he'll be at an uncontrolled airport, no air traffic control. He'll just fucking taxi all the way to the runway without saying a damn thing. Good luck, everybody else. And it's weird because usually these guys have like 8,000 hours of network. Hold on, boys. Charlie Ground, American 24 Heavy requesting IFR Tampa.
24, your cleared Alpha International Airport BB6 departure agenda. Transition on this file. Maintain 8,000. Expect flight level 38010 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 120.5. Sequence squawk 2543.
Clear to the Tampa Airport is filed. BB6 departure agenda intersection. Initial altitude 8,000. Departure frequency 120.5. Squawk 2543. American 24 Heavy.
American 24 Heavy correctly start at your discretion. Call ready for taxi information. X-ray card.
All one ready for taxi. American 24 Heavy. Get this bad boy started. All right, boys. Push back now.
American 24 Heavy contact 911.
Jesus, bro, he's out taxiing Southwest.
24 Heavy, have a great flight.
American 24 Heavy, are you up?
American 24 Heavy.
American 24 Heavy, showing tower hello, wind calm. Turn right heading 025, runway 36 right, clear for takeoff.
Return 025, clear takeoff 36 right, American 24 Heavy. Runway is confirmed. Anyways, foreigner in new airspace, boys. Not ATL data data here. And Nigel, which direction is the runway? Atlanta ground speed, 43 Heavy, super, whatever the fuck, taxiing to the runway. And he's like, you're number 3 for takeoff, fella. Oh, lovely. We British love forming queues and love also Star Wars. Trimmer, remember airport, this guy spawns in, everybody's gonna spawn in on him. They're about to run a train on some poor approach controller. 50 fucking Airbuses in a row, boys, all stacked right on top of each other. Absolute madness, boys, they need to get pissed about that.
American 24 Heavy, Charlie departure, radar contact. Return left heading 270, contact 6000.
Left heading 270 and up to 16,000 American 24 Heavy.
What happened to his other displays?
This guy's mic sounds like he's in an echoing shitty cave in fucking Afghanistan somewhere circa 2003. Somehow the controller understands it most of the time. I'll never understand why. VFR Dan 76 does touch and goes in the same airport in Class B airspace for 2 hours. Controllers probably hate him. It's like, bro, just fucking log off and do that somewhere else. The clueless guy. He immediately talks to center seconds after they say, all aircraft stand by. Controller brief in progress. The deaf guy. This is radio call sign off.
This is true.
At some point he stops responding to ATC. He probably died of fucking deep vein thrombosis flying real time from South Africa to O'Hare. And he's shooting with the chair. No wonder he's not responding, boys. He's dead.
Oh, what the heck? What's happening? Come on. Why can't move it? What the heck? Can you guys still hear me? Oh, there we go. Now it moved. He really is the Vatsum or the... He really is the Dr. Disrespect, isn't he? The doppelganger of Dr. Disrespect. Let me know if you guys can still hear me in the chat. I don't know why. The video like froze. Hold on. I think Google Chrome froze because I'm not being able to see your chat, but I am on a hold on. Bro, that video wrecked my Google Chrome. It's like frozen. Hold on, guys. Sorry. My Google Chrome just like literally just killed itself. I don't know. That was weird. Let me catch up on the chat. Sorry about that, guys. Danish dude, I'm dying. This stream is actually nothing. I want to watch a stream, not a video in a stream. Alright, Danish dude. Yeah, looks like you're never going to be a mod ever again. So, that's cool. Can we play another video game while we wait to play this game? What? This is peak Vatsim for real. Dr. Disrespect, but no minors involved yet? Jacob, that's crazy. My Chromebooks 4 giveaways around isn't handling shit. Dude, Dr. Disrespect before minors is actually hilarious. That's yet. Like I said, yet, dude. That's wild. All right, we're cruising now. Let's see. Kind of almost at Turks and Caicos. Got 704 nautical miles remaining. An hour and 22 minutes left. Alright, boys, we're cruising. Ethan? What? What are you saying? Alright, sorry about that. Alright, guys. Okay, he's giving me the answer. What the hell? For me to answer, maybe? I'm gonna get the F-18 to intercept to take it off from Cockport Town. That's crazy. Let me know when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, am I supposed to put 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay. 1. Who was the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic? Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart. I don't know how to spell Earhart. Sure. 2. What is the name of the aircraft that was the first to break the sound barrier in level flight? The Bell 1? Bell something. I don't know. Which airline operates the world's longest nonstop flight by distance? Singapore. Airlines. What is a term for the force that pushes the aircraft forward in flight? The force that pushes the nose forward? That's what it was. Bell X1, thank you. What do you mean the force that, like, pitch? Is that what it's looking for? The term? What is the term for the force that pushes the nose forward? The force? Yeah, gravity? I don't know. I feel like that's a weird question. Gravity, sure. Which year did the first Concorde take place? I think it's trim. All right, we'll see. Concorde. All right, no cheating, no cheating, no looking this up. Give me a guess. What was the first date the Concorde took flight? 1980. No cheating. I feel like it's earlier than 1980. I'm not 100% sure though, so I have no. Which country was the first to build and fly a jet aircraft? Germany. They used it in World War II. Alright. Danish dude, did you look it up? Germany 7 is what? Is VFR? Oh, visual flight rules. Eight. What was the name of the first all-electric commercial aircraft to make its maiden flight? I don't know. Which airport is the busiest airport in the world by passenger traffic? I feel like it's Atlanta, but I feel like it's been going back and forth. I'm gonna say Atlanta. And then 10. What is the primary purpose of a vertical stabilizer on an aircraft? Nah, I think it's Atlanta. What is the purpose of the vertical stabilizer on an aircraft? I mean, do you think Concorde's 1970? I don't know. Whatever. This is wrong, but I have no other answer. We're doing 1970. I'll go 1970. Alright. 8. What's the first electric aircraft? Fine. That's not electric. What's the first electric aircraft? Wasn't it the one that United was trying to build or whatever? It was like the Concorde, but no, wait, that's not electric. Bro, what's the first electric plane? I don't know. Tesla. I'll just put IDK. Great job. Here's how you did. Okay, so who was the first woman to fly across? Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart. That's cool. Okay, which was the first? Okay, Singapore Airlines. Correct. Singapore Airlines. Answer gravity incorrect. The force that pushes the aircraft nose forward is thrust. Bro, what? Correct. The first Concorde flight took in 1969. Bro, it was thrust? I feel like that question was worded weird. Thrust. What is the term for the force that pushes an aircraft forward in flight? Oh, I wasn't thinking nose. Wait, why did I say nose? Did it say nose? Did I read that wrong? Oh my god, I put nose in there for no reason. That's crazy, dude. Germany, yep. In 1939. VFR short was correct. Okay, what is the first all-electric? It was the IFLY 2 by Aerospace, which made its maiden flight in 2019. Boom, Atlanta, busiest airport. Oh my god, I'm a fucking pilot, guys. I'm a fucking pilot. Look at that. Look at number 10. Look at number 10. I'm a fucking pilot. What'd I say? What'd I say? I'm a fucking pilot, baby. Come on now. Come on now. To prevent Dutch roll. Vertical stabilizer helps prevent Dutch roll, a type of oscillation that maintains stable yaw. I dug that deep for my private pilot training. I remember talking about that. I remember quite. Dude. All right, put user in timeout for 1 minute. Goodbye, Danish dude. All right, cool. Danish dude's out here for a minute. Let's go, guys. Let's go, guys. Eight out of 10. All right, I'll take it. I'll take it. No, I have my pilot's license. Rossetti. I have my pilot's license. What do you think, guys? Should we do some more? Hi, Jacob, bro. How's it going? Welcome back, Danish. I don't know where you went. Should we do some more questions? What do you guys think? Should we do some more questions? Let's see. Top of descent. Top of descent is at 1:30. So in an hour, it's top of descent. Should we do some more questions? Yes, sir, Rossetti. What else should we do, guys, while we cruise here? Should we ask some more aviation and trivia questions from ChatGPT? Scroll TikTok for 3 hours. I'm not scrolling TikTok. There's also I heard that there was a CRJ update coming up. I think next Tuesday, so we might be able to take up the CRJ next week. If you guys are interested in that, let me know what CRJ routes we should do. Alright guys, who's going number 1 overall in the NFL draft coming up? Anybody take a guess? Who's going number 1 overall in the NFL draft? Darkness out there. Getting hungry. I don't know what I should have for dinner. I might go downstairs and get some food real quick. Danish dude, are you still here? Alright. I think I'm gonna go downstairs and warm up some food. And I'll be right back. So, if anybody comes in here, you're in charge and tell them where I'm at. Alright, chat, I'm back. Such a Green Dot Aviation. I learned about this guy from what's it called? V1 Simulations. He always plays one of their videos on the longer flight, and I love Green Dot's videos. He does such a good job on them. Let's just double check here. So in like 35 minutes ish, we'll be a little bit more, 45 minutes ish. All right, sounds good. Let's go ahead. If you guys are down, let's watch a Green Dot while I eat. Alright, let's do it. Which one should we do? Avianca, Korean Air, wind shear, let's see. 737. Korean Air cargo. Which one should we do? All of them. Let's do this one. Actually, let me look. Snowed in.
The runway should be straight ahead. They can't see it. What they don't know is that they have made a grave mistake, which will soon become impossible to ignore. In the darkness,
Oh well.
them in the airport lies a hill. What got the crew into this situation in the first place? And were they the pilots of the Korean Air Boeing 747 are desperately searching for the runway on their final approach to Guam in the West Pacific? Heavy rain pelts their windscreens, and dark clouds obscure the path in front of them. The runway should be straight ahead, but they can't see it. What they don't know is that they have made a grave mistake, which will soon become impossible to ignore. In the darkness, between them and the airport, lies a hill. What got the crew into this situation in the first place? And would they figure out what was happening before it was too late? 254 lives hang in the balance. This is the story of Korean Air Flight 801.
It's like a investigation, but like with a simulator. Have you actually never heard of Green Dot? If you heard of like air crash investigations, he basically does that, but uses the flight simulator.
It was just before 8 p.m. on an August evening in 1997 when 237 passengers boarded a Korean Air Boeing 747 at Seoul's Gimpo Airport in South Korea. Their destination was the island of Guam, a US territory in the Mariana Islands, 3.5 hours flying time to the south. For some passengers, this late-night flight would be the last leg back home. For others, it meant a return to work after a break in Korea. Taking care of them in the cabin were 14 flight attendants. The aircraft they were flying on was a 12-year-old Boeing 747-300. The 300 variant was part of an older generation of 747s, which Korean was in the process of replacing with the newer, more sophisticated 400 series. Over its 15 years of service with airlines, the 747-300 had proven itself to be a safe and reliable aircraft. And occupying the 3 seats up at the front of the jet was a safe and reliable crew. The captain, first officer, and flight engineer had arrived at the airport 2 hours before their scheduled departure, giving themselves time to collect the paperwork for the trip, brief themselves for the flight, and receive a briefing from their supervisor of flying. This supervisor of flying role was created by Korean Airlines to address deficiencies at the airline, deficiencies which had led to a spate of accidents in the previous years. The purpose of this briefing was to ensure that the pilots had reviewed all pertinent materials for the flight. On this day, the supervisor of flying was a retired 747 captain. He asked the flight crew about what he considered to be the main factor for the flight: the weather. It was well into Guam's rainy season, and the pilots discussed a typhoon near their route, as well as the inclement weather they expected to encounter on arrival at Guam. The briefing took about 10 minutes, and although it covered many of the main points of interest for the flight, some crucial things were left out. We'll see what they were in a moment. At about 8:30 that evening, the crew of 3 boarded the jumbo jet and began setting it up for departure. Sitting in the left-hand seat was the flight's captain, 42-year-old Park Yong-chul. Park had been with Korean Air for just under 10 years, the last 2 years as a captain. Before starting with the airline, he had served in the Korean Air Force, building up almost 3,000 hours of flying experience there. Since transitioning to the civilian world, he'd accumulated a further 6,000 hours of flying time, mainly on the Boeing 727 and 747. By most metrics, he was an excellent pilot, consistently receiving the highest grades in his simulator evaluations and online checks in the aircraft itself. 3 months previously, Park had received a Flight Safety Award from the airline's president for successfully landing a 747 after it suffered an engine failure at low altitude. Sitting to his right was 40-year-old First Officer Song Kyung-ho. Song had been with Korean Air for 3 years, having spent the majority of his career in the Korean Air Force. In this time, he had amassed 4,000 total flying hours, 1,500 of which on the 747.
Yeah, I find it interesting. You don't?
His evaluations had described him variously as above standard and standard.
I guess as a pilot I do, just to kind of see what not to do or what to learn from these accidents.
To carry out directions. Importantly for this flight, as will turn out, he was the only member of the crew not to have attended a crew resource management course. Sitting behind the pilots in his sideways seat was the flight engineer, 57-year-old Nam Suk-hoon. Nam had been with the airline for 18 years, logging 13,000 hours, 11,000 of which as a flight engineer. His evaluators put him at above standard and excellent. Given the wealth of experience in the cockpit, passengers had every reason to believe that they were in safe hands. At just before 9:30 that night, slightly behind schedule, everything was finally ready to go. The passengers had boarded, the cargo had been loaded, and the plane had been filled with 51 metric tons of jet fuel. Once the pilots had received clearance from air traffic control, the massive jet was pushed back from the gate. The pilots started the plane's 4 engines in sequence and began their taxi out to the runway. The captain would be flying the aircraft to Guam this night, while the first officer handled the radios and monitored the aircraft. At 10 minutes past 10, Flight 801 lined up on the runway and began its takeoff.
I think this is X-Plane 12.
Within moments, the 747 was airborne and climbing out into the inky black sky. The pilots had a long night ahead of them. After landing in Guam, they would take on a new load of passengers and fuel and then fly back to Seoul, arriving at 8:30 in the morning. Their total duty time was expected to be 12.5 hours. Captain Park turned the plane south towards Guam and climbed the aircraft to its initial
Barbecue
cruise
chicken
path.
and mashed potatoes.
This flight would take place entirely in darkness, with the pilots not expecting to see the sun until the return journey to Seoul. As the aircraft climbed, everything was normal. The pilots were making use of their weather radar to pick out storm clouds en route, but at least initially, they seemed to be being spared the worst of the weather, and the flight progressed smoothly. Luckily for them, the 747 was a sturdy vessel, much like the vehicles in this week's sponsor, Crossout. Crossout is an online vehicle shooter game set in a post-apocalyptic future where you make your own unique combat vehicles and engage in the different parts. Each faction comes with their own stock to get into. Or, head with Wheeler Dealer, you like that you can even sell your excess loot or crafted items to other players or really fast desert plains to the narrow streets of abandoned cities.
You know, fun fact, Yeah, I'm trying to cut it a little bit. Fun fact, I got reached out by some mobile app to do advertising on the channel. I ignored it because I don't like mobile app and weird game advertising.
Download Crossout for free using my link in the pinned comment or video description. It's available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. When you use my link, for a limited time only, you'll get a massive bonus pack, including 3 days of premium and 3 unique vehicles for players on PC. So snatch it up while the offer remains, but for now, back to the video. The cabin crew passed through the aisles with food and drinks. The relatively short length of the flight, just 3 hours, meant that there wasn't really time for any of the passengers to get much sleep before arrival. What the passengers didn't know was that they wouldn't be the only ones arriving at Guam a little tired. Captain Park had originally been scheduled to fly to Dubai on this night. However, he had not gotten enough rest after his previous flight in from Hong Kong, so he was put on the shorter Guam flight instead. Having a tired pilot at the helm is bad enough in the best of times, but as we'll now see, this approach into Guam would not be taking place in the best of times. As Flight 801 zoomed southeast over the Philippine Sea, the island of Guam was being pelted by rain showers. Thankfully for arriving aircraft, the airport was equipped with an instrument landing system, which would allow the crew to make an approach even without being able to see the runway. The instrument landing system, or ILS, consists of 2 radio beams, a localizer which provides pilots with lateral guidance towards the runway, and a glide slope which gives vertical guidance. By simply following the indications on their instruments, pilots can fly all the way down to the runway without ever seeing it out their windscreens. But on this night, there was a problem. The glide slope, the radio beam that tells pilots whether they are high or low on the approach, wasn't working. A NOTAM had been published about this, but it was one of the items which had not been covered by the supervisor of flying back in Seoul. Nonetheless, the pilots were aware of it, and we'll see how they dealt with it in a moment.
Damn.
At this point in the flight, the pilots had climbed to their final cruising altitude of 41,000 feet. They began encountering some turbulence as they neared the outer edges of the typhoon along their route, but it was nothing too severe. In less than half an hour, they would begin their descent. After 3 hours in the air, Flight 801 was now just 240 miles from Guam. They were now within radio range of Guam radar control, and the first officer made contact. The controller told him that he could expect to land on runway 6 left. Now it was time for the captain, as pilot flying, to brief the approach. He took out his approach chart and began talking the other pilots through it. But here is where we encounter another problem, and it's a problem which should have been noticed and fixed hours earlier in the briefing room at Seoul. Here is a photocopy of the captain's approach chart. It's dated August 2nd, 1996, which was the most current approach chart for Guam at the time. The first officer should have been following this brief on his own chart, as both pilots would need their charts in front of them during the approach. The captain would be using his to fly, and the first officer would be using his to make sure that the captain was flying the approach correctly. But on this night, the first officer had a different chart.
Oh no.
This is a copy of his approach chart. It was dated January 19th, 1996, meaning that it was now very much out of date, as significant changes to the procedure had been introduced in the meantime. Whether or not the pilots noticed this is unclear, but the captain began briefing using his chart nonetheless. Because the glide slope was not working, the approach chart outlined another method to guide the pilot's descent as they neared the airport. Simply put, it told them which altitudes they would need to be at particular distances from the runway. The approach chart instructed the pilots to cross the waypoint Flake, located 7 miles from the Nimitz radio beacon, at or above 2,600
Danish
feet.
dude,
From there, the pilots would
5070
descend to
Ti
2,000
Super is like the return
until they
provider
reached
Sunday
the
with
outer
that
marker,
Paris.
a radio beacon which was 1.6 miles from the Nimitz beacon.
I don't
From
know
there,
Danish.
they were to descend to 1,440
I'm not good
feet
enough at
until they reached
knowing
Nimitz.
all these different specs about
At
computers
Nimitz,
to give
they would
you
continue
my
descending
opinion.
to 560
I can just tell you what I have,
where they
and I
must
can just
stay
tell you
until
that
catching sight of the runway.
what I have works.
if they didn't see the runway by the time they were 2.8 miles past limits, they would have to carry out a missed approach. If it sounds like I said the word limits a lot there, that's because that radio beacon is a key component of this approach, and its location, 3.3 miles from the runway, made Guam something of an unusual airport to fly into. Normally, distances on approach charts are referenced to the runway threshold, not a beacon some distance from it. The pilots of Flight 801 would have to keep this in mind as they made their approach. When the instruments showed a distance of, say, 7 miles, this meant that they were 7 miles from the Nimitz radio beacon and 10 miles from the airport. It also meant that after they passed the beacon during the approach and began flying away from it, the distance on their instruments would start counting up rather than down. There was nothing overly complex about this. The pilots would just have to keep it in mind as they flew the approach. By the time Captain Park had finished the approach briefing, Flight 801 was just over 150 nautical miles from the airport. It was now time to start descending. The controller had cleared them directly down to 2,600 feet. The captain dialed this altitude into the autopilot window and put the plane in a descent. He tuned his navigation radio to 110.3 MHz so that he could receive the localizer beam once he neared the airport. Meanwhile, the first officer had his equipment set to 115.3 to receive the Nimitz radio beacon, which he would use to provide the captain with distance information for the approach. The captain had flown into Guam a month previously in similar conditions. On that occasion, he'd been able to see the runway from quite far out, in between rain showers. He was expecting the situation to be similar this time, so although he had briefed an instrument approach, the crew were expecting to be able to see the runway from a few miles out. In the back of the aircraft, the cabin crew were cleaning up after the meal service, putting away the trolleys, and securing the cabin for landing. They were now less than 30 minutes from touchdown. As they descended, Captain Park lamented the airline's scheduling, saying, "They make us work to maximum, up to maximum. Probably this way hotel expenses will be saved for cabin crews and maximize the flight hours. Anyway, they make us classic guys work to maximum." Park normally went to bed at around 10 PM, so it was now more than 3 hours past his usual bedtime. Not long after, he commented, really sleepy." Normally, people underestimate the degree to which they are fatigued. The fact that Park was clearly aware of how tired he was shows that his performance was now likely becoming significantly degraded. But there was no time for rest. He first had to land in Guam and then get the aircraft turned around for the return flight to Seoul. Almost as if to wake him up or take him deeper into what would soon be a nightmare, the first officer delivered some bad news. The weather at Guam was getting worse, and directly ahead of them were storm clouds from the nearby typhoon. While there was nothing but blackness out their windscreens, they could clearly see the clouds on their weather radar.
Damn.
The captain told the first officer to ask air traffic control if they could deviate 20 miles to the left to avoid them. But the first officer thought it looked clearer elsewhere, and he asked the captain if he didn't think this was the better direction to take. Park dismissed the question and repeated, "Left, request deviation 10 mile." The controller granted Park's request to deviate 10 miles left of track due to weather. The aircraft gently began banking to the left, away from the storm clouds. Meanwhile, the pilots completed the descent checklist, ensuring that the cabin pressurization was set for landing, that they had correctly set the approach speeds on their instruments, that the weather radar was correctly set, and, among a few other things, the passenger seatbelt sign was turned on. They were now just 20 minutes from landing. Having diverted around the weather, the flight crew then caught sight of the island of Guam. "It's Guam, Guam," said the flight engineer. First Officer Song told the controller that they were now clear of the weather, and he asked for radar vectors to runway 6 left. The controller instructed the flight to turn right heading 120 degrees. The pilots then set their instruments up for the landing, and carried out the approach checklist, turning on the landing lights and putting on their shoulder harnesses. Not long after this, they entered the clouds and lost sight of the island. They wouldn't be seeing much of it for the remainder of the flight. As they descended through 2,800 feet, the controller cleared Flight 801 to turn east, so that they could intercept the localizer beam to the runway. the pilots started to configure the 747 for landing, extending the flaps to 10 degrees. Things were now about to start happening very quickly. As Flight 801
Alright, sorry about that, guys. Had to do some chores real quick.
By Captain Park. Why is it working? Somebody asked.
Let's just do a quick check in here. 128. So in 10 minutes. Gotcha. Alright, sounds good. Alright.
But just because the glide slope was showing up on their instruments didn't mean it was working. What the pilots were receiving here were false indications from an
Shut
unknown
up,
source.
Danish.
First Officer Song reminded the others, not usable. As tempting as it was to believe these signals, the pilots would have to ignore them. They continued towards the airport, lowering the gear. As they had now reached the flakeway point, 7 miles from the Nimitz beacon, it was safe to descend to 2,000 feet. The pilots dialed this altitude into the autopilot and set a descent rate of 1,000 feet per minute. Following these altitude restrictions carefully is vitally important. They exist to ensure one thing: terrain separation. In other words, descend below one of these altitudes and there's a good chance it would crash into a mountain. In the case of Guam, the Nimitz radio beacon itself is located on a hill, Nimitz Hill, which reaches up to 800 feet high, directly on the approach path to runway 6 left. Things happen fast in a jet, and these kinds of approaches create a high workload for the pilots. To reduce their workload, instead of descending and then leveling off and then descending again, pilots tend to opt for a continuous descent at a rate that allows them to satisfy each of the altitude constraints on the way down. However, back when Captain Park had briefly approached during the cruise, he didn't mention whether he would be doing a continuous approach or what's known as a dive and drive approach, where the step down altitudes are followed in sequence. Even more crucially, he didn't highlight to the crew that the Nimitz radio beacon, which the whole approach was designed around, was located not at the runway threshold, but 3 miles from the runway. Keeping this at the top of everybody's
When
minds
the
would
pilots
be
decided they
useful,
thought
given how
life was boring, so
infrequently
they
this
pushed
crew
the no
flew
yoke
Guam.
all the way forward. That's crazy.
As they descended through 2,400 feet, the first officer called out, approaching 1,400. The captain reminded himself and the other crew that because the glide slope was not working, they would need to maintain 1,440 feet as per their charts. He asked the first officer to set this altitude on the autopilot. But here was where the captain and first officer would make a mistake, which would set off a chain of events endangering the lives of everyone on board. The approach chart instructed them not to descend below 2,000 feet until they were 1.6 miles from the Nimitz beacon. At this point, they were still about 5 miles from the beacon, or around 8 miles from the runway. Why had the captain begun his descent so early? Before anybody had time to take stock of the mistake that had just been made, the controller handed Flight 801 off to Guam Tower. First Officer Song contacted the tower controller, who then cleared them to land. Captain Park called for the flaps to be set to 30 degrees, and he told the crew to keep an eye out for the runway. Based on his previous approach into Guam a month ago, he expected to catch sight of the runway at any moment. This is why his approach briefing earlier had been so short. In fact, even the training video, which Korean Air showed the pilots before they flew here last time, told them to expect to carry out the approach visually. But Flight 801 was in thick cloud, and it was now heading into heavy rain. The plane was now descending through 1,600 feet, still over 2 miles from the Nimitz beacon. It should have been level at 2,000 feet, waiting until it was 1.6 miles from Nimitz to descend any further. But now, Captain Park would make a second mistake. Before the crew even reached the 1,440-foot level-off point, which was already too low for their current position, he told the first officer to set the next lowest point on the autopilot, which was the final altitude for the approach, the so-called minimum descent altitude, or MDA. This was at just 560 feet. The first officer dutifully dialed this into the autopilot, and Flight 801 continued its descent.
Damn.
Through a combination of fatigue, an incomplete briefing, and the expectation of a visual approach, the captain had now clearly lost situational awareness. His mental picture of where the plane was did not match reality at all. But what could explain his premature descent? Why was he already descending to the minimum descent altitude while he was still so far from the runway? In all likelihood, Captain Park had now forgotten that the instrument in front of him was showing his distance not to the runway threshold, but to the Nimitz beacon. When it showed a distance of 5 miles, he figured that he was 5 miles from the airport, when in reality he was 5 miles from the beacon, and therefore 8 miles from the airport. In other words, he was 3 miles further from the airport than he thought he was. If he had briefed the approach fully, he would have mentioned that the flight could not descend below 1,440 feet until they passed Nimitz. They would know they had passed Nimitz when the distance to it on this instrument read 0, and the flag switched from to to from. From there, and only there, could they safely begin to descend below 1,440 feet. This was clearly outlined
because
on
he
the
can't
charts.
fly.
Yet here they were, still
Maybe.
2 miles from Nimitz, descending through 1,300 feet, and setting 500 feet on their autopilot. Whether the first officer had the same mental picture as the captain is not clear. It's entirely possible that he knew that the captain was not following the procedure correctly, but that he trusted that the captain knew what he was doing. It's also possible that he simply wasn't able to follow what the captain was doing because he didn't have the most up-to-date charts in front of him. But there was somebody else who should have been aware that all was not well with Flight 801. The controller. Guam's airport was equipped with
Of course,
what's known as
unlike
a
me.
minimum safe altitude warning system. This system issues visual and aural alerts to controllers whenever an aircraft descends below a predetermined safe altitude. Flight 801 was now below this altitude, and it should have triggered the alarm. However, when this system was first installed 7 years previously, it generated a lot of false warnings. So, 2 years previously, with the approval of the US Federal Aviation Administration, the airport had essentially disabled the system. The pilots were on their own.
1,000.
The aircraft's computer told the crew that they were now 1,000 feet above the ground. Yet again, the glide slope needle appeared to be giving plausible readings. Despite agreeing to ignore it earlier, the captain now became confused about whether the glide slope was in fact working. He pointed it out to his colleagues.
I use Wi-Fi right now, but I've also used Ethernet before.
The aircraft then entered a heavy rain shower, and the flight engineer turned on the windscreen wipers. Every second counted. The pilots were peering ahead through the darkness, desperate to locate the runway lights. If they could see them, they could proceed with the landing. "Not in sight?" asked Song. This wasn't what the pilots had planned. They were sure that they would be seeing the runway by this point. Then, the plane's automated voice called out,
500.
meaning that they were now just 500 feet above the ground. "Yeah?" the flight engineer said, astonished. But the 2 other pilots said nothing, and pressed on with the approach. These alerts were coming from sensors on the underside of the aircraft,
No.
which provide
I think it's a
indications of this
B650.
instrument here,
That's all I
the
know.
radio altimeter. It measures the plane's actual height while it is low to the ground, while the pilot's main altimeters, here and here, tell them their altitude above sea level. The fact that the radio altimeter showed them to be 500 feet above the ground, while their main altimeters showed them to be at 1,200 feet above sea level, meant that they must now be over high ground. This should have been a clue to the pilots that they were flying too low. Had Captain Park looked at his radio altimeter, he would have seen it ticking down to 0 fast, indicating that they were dangerously close to high terrain, which was now sloping up to meet them. Oblivious to the mortal danger they were now in, the pilots continued their pre-landing checklists. They calmly confirmed that the auto brakes were set, that the landing gear was down and locked, that the spoilers were armed, and that the flaps were set for landing.
That's crazy Danish too.
As they worked through the checklist, the computer called out,
Minimum.
this should have been a big clue to the pilots that something was wrong. They should have received
should have
this
just gone
call out
around.
just seconds from landing.
Like
when they had descended
through all of this, not seeing the runway, never mind breaking the altitude, all that stuff. But like the
Look,
fact that they got
wrong.
low enough for
They should
for
have
the
received
for the it to say minimums, like minimums, if you don't see the runway, you go around. And the fact that they got all the way down to minimums and they still didn't go around is kind of crazy.
this call out just seconds from landing, when they had descended below the minimum descent altitude of 560 feet. Yet somehow they were receiving it while descending through 700 feet. This could only mean one thing: there was high ground beneath them. Still convinced that the runway was less than a mile away, the captain pressed on, continuing his descent below the minimums. But now,
That should have been the
pilots-
final Swiss cheese to be like, wait a minute, we don't see the runway, let's go around.
would receive a warning they couldn't ignore.
Sink rate.
Sink rate, okay, said the first officer. The sink rate was definitely not okay. 200, Flight Engineer Nam called, referencing the radio altimeter, which showed that they were now just 200 feet above the ground. The first officer suggested that they make a missed approach. It didn't make sense that they were 200 feet above the ground and still didn't have the runway in sight. But the captain didn't respond. Not in sight, affirmed Nam, backing up his colleague. 1 second later, Song firmly repeated to the captain, not in sight, missed approach.
That's the hard part. Like, not to be racist, but like, just traditionally in Korea, China, all these places, like, your captain is basically the elder, right? You're supposed to respect him. Whatever he says goes, and vice versa. Whatever the captain says, he's the final authority. I mean, even in the United States, but I feel like in the United States and in Europe, it's more of a collaboration between the two. Although the captain has more responsibility, it's a collaboration. If one of the pilots is not okay about doing something, it's an automatic, we're not doing it until both pilots agree to do it. And they can't see much, so yeah, exactly. They can't see, one. So, first of all, they go through the minimums, which is, like, already bad. So the fact that they're breaking the descent altitude on this particular approach, one. Two, they went past minimums, which on instrument approaches is a big no-no. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure it's one of those where it's like, oh, you know, it's minimum, but I'm sure we'll see the runway in a second, so I'm just going to extend the minimums a little bit more. Maybe. But, like, still, when the airplane says minimums, you just go around. But the fact that the first officer is told to go miss approach twice, and he just ignores it, is so bad. Exactly, 20. Exactly. That's just so scary to me. And, like, that must be scary for the first officer, because the first officer knows, hey, let's go around. I'm not liking this approach. Let's go around. Let's do it again. And the fact that the captain doesn't say anything and just continues is kind of, like I said, just scary for the first officer, because obviously the first officer knows this isn't looking right. Let's just go around and try it again. The captain just wants to get there. It could be a mixture of get there-itis, honestly.
It was the first officer's responsibility to take control and carry out the missed approach himself.
Landing lights are probably on, but there's so much cloud and rain that I'm sure the lights are just reflecting off the clouds, so you can't really see anything anyway.
If he did, he would save the jet and its over 200 passengers. But hundreds of years of Korean deference to rank, bottled up and concentrated by years of military and aviation training, was now working against him. He simply couldn't bring himself to do what needed to be done. Go round, Nam called.
Yep, go around.
After
See?
two pleas
3 times
from
you've
the
been
first
told.
officer and flight engineer, Captain Park finally agreed. He pushed the throttle levers forward and disconnected the autopilot to climb away from the ground. But still not understanding the seriousness of the situation, his efforts on the controls were weak and tentative. He was pulling back in his control column so slightly that the nose was only rising by 1 degree per second.
Oh my god, you need positive
The plane
rate.
was now barely even 100 feet above the terrain, and it still wasn't climbing. In quick succession, the ground proximity warning system called out.
50, 40, 30, 20.
Oof.
Just 3 seconds after Captain Park had decided to go around, Flight 801 impacted Nimitz Hill. The aircraft broke apart and burst into flames. It was 9 minutes before
Go
the
around
controls
and
had
you're
gone,
like barely
even
going
realized
up.
the
Like,
plane
go around's like
crashed.
positive rate, like you're taking
The
off.
rescuers finally reached.
That's a go around. A go around is not, okay, let's slightly climb out of it. A go around is, it's like you're taking off. Positive rate to climb, gear up, get on out of there. It's not like a, let's just slowly climb up.
To the scene almost an hour after the crash. Only 31 of the 254 passengers and crew on board had
The fact that
survived,
people survived is crazy.
6 of whom would later die of their injuries.
Give me 1 second, guys. Let's take a look at this real quick. Yep, we need to start descending. Oops. Bottom altitude for this approach is going to be 2,000 feet. Let's go ahead and set that here. 1,000 feet. There we go. All right, we're on VNet path. All right, we'll finish up the video, and then we'll do an approach brief for this landing.
The crash of Flight 801 came as a shock.
It's a go around. Yeah, not go above. So, what did the charts look like back then? It looked like the same. It was just paper charts, and so that's the one thing. Like with this, like since they had paper charts, one was out of date, one was in date. That's one of the first things you check with an approach briefing or a departure briefing or whatever. You make sure that both the charts are up to date. It's a lot easier nowadays with electronic charts that we have. Like with Realite, they have this app called Jet FD Pro that has JetAscent charts, and it gets updated, and it tells you you're supposed to look, and even on ForeFlight for general aviation flying, it tells you when charts need to be updated. So you just constantly, one of the first things you need to do before you go flying is check to see if there's an update for charts. Now to keep your charts up to date. Toggle button should point the nose up. Yeah, exactly, Danish.
Shock to the industry. It was South Korea's worst accident since one of its 747s was shot down by the Soviet Union in 1983.
Yeah.
You can watch the video I made about that horrific incident by tapping the link now appearing at the top right of your screen. 3 years after the crash of Flight 801 in the year 2000, the US National Transportation Safety Board released their final report on the accident. In it, they recommended that flight crews carry out a full briefing before conducting instrument approaches. If Captain Park had done this, he may have been more aware of the high terrain around Nimitz and the fact that the distances displayed on his instruments were to the beacon and not the runway. The report also recommended that crews be trained to ignore any readings on their instruments when the respective navigation aid is known to be inoperative. In this case, the crew's confusion about the glide slope cost them precious moments of attention, which they should have been devoting to carrying out their approach as planned. 17 days after the accident, after years of being disabled, the minimum safe altitude warning system at Guam was finally reinstated, although some false warnings persisted. Perhaps the most valuable lesson of all to come from this crash, though, and the one that affects not just Guam or Korean Air, but everyone who flies today, is the importance of a key component of crew resource management known as threat and error management. This concept was developed by psychologists at the University of Texas in 1994, and if it had been used by the crew of Flight 801, they would have spoken explicitly in their briefing about the threats they faced on this flight, including flying at night, flying into clouds, an unserviceable glide slope, the fact that the Nimitz beacon was not located at the airport, and the high terrain on the approach path. The crew would also have spelled out to each other how they were going to mitigate these threats. This aspect of CRM has become a global standard since the crash of Flight 801.
Dang,
and
that's sad.
widespread adoption has made the kind of mistakes made on this night.
Our nav arrival? Yes, you are. Yes,
Don't
you are.
forget to download Crossout for free using my links in the pinned comment and video.
All right. Speaking about approach briefings, let's brief an approach, shall we? If my chart will work. Hello? All right. So we're doing the RNAV approach. Wind is calm down there in St. Kitts. If you look here, we can pull up the weather. Right now, wind's calm. QNH 1015. If we pull up, let's look at. Oh, it would be here, huh? Looking for the transition altitude here. Airport elevation, approach, final approach course. Circle land. I don't know what the transition altitude is down here. Probably assigned by ATC. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the briefing here. So it's gonna be the RNAV. So we're gonna be at Gabar, and we're gonna go to Gabar to Kassam, to Novar, which is the initial approach fix, over to Udgel, and then to Kipper, and then to Radat, and then our minimums for the LNAV here is going to be 840 or 1,000. So let's try to set this here. We'll set this to 1,000. Set this here. Bruh. Bro, oh my god. Go all the way down to 1,000. $1,000 feet. There we go. All right, cool. Sorry about that, guys. That took a long time. All right. Get the dome lights on. I mean, yeah, that's true. We could, just to get a little light here. Okay, so that's looking good there. As far as the missed approach goes, or final approach goes, is 251. Let's go ahead and set that as well. $251, that's good there, awesome. Let's go ahead and take a look at everything else. So it's going to be from kit bar, so Oogle. So you can see 2,000 is going to be a minimum altitude. So before Oogle is going to be 2,500, and then after Oogle is going to be 2,000, and then from Kipper over to Radat, it's going to be 3-degree glide slope to Radat. Radat is going to be where we're going to hit our minimums. And we'll decide if we go around or not. If we see the runway, we'll obviously continue. And then our go-around procedure, if we could take a look at that. I don't know why this is lagging so much. We're basically going to be climbing out left turn to 3,200, direct to Inking down here, to cross Inking at above 1,400. And then a right direct to Lomdo and hold. So you can see down here, we're going to direct Inking, and then right, and then we're going to be doing a direct entry. So we're going to enter here, and then we're going to go ahead and start our hold procedure. Maximum holding altitude is 3,200 right here, and 230 knots. So we got some terrain to the right. We could go ahead and brief that. So on go around, make sure to obviously go left, 230 heading, just because there's lots of terrain in to the right side of the island here for the approach. As far as landing goes, we're going to probably be doing a flaps 40 landing, just because there's only 7,600 feet of runway available to us. So we'll probably land, and we'll turn around on the runway, back taxi to Alpha, and then Alpha to parking on the ground there. All right, that's looking good. Let's go ahead and we'll get flaps 40. So it's going to be 137, flaps 40. That's looking good there. And we'll do auto brake 3. There it is. So we're going to come out here, come to the right, and go in. All right, let's go ahead and get the photogrammetry back on. Photogrammetry is back on. Engine's continuous means that there's going to be continuous ignition. Usually they put that on when they're going through clouds, just in case the moisture of the clouds could put out the ignition to the engine. That's I forgot what the term is now. When you go through rain and flame out, you can get an engine flame out if you don't have it on continuous. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of why. Again, I'm not like 100% expert on this, so like whatever I say could be wrong, but it's just my interpretation of it, and what I think is the reason. But I could be completely wrong, and an airline pilot could come in here and tell me that it's totally different, and it could be, to be honest. Alright, there we go. We're descending in here. Let's see. We are still a little bit above path, so I'm going to keep the speed brakes in a little bit here. Also need to start slowing down, so I'm going to go ahead and do manual speed. I'm going to slow down to 210 here. Alright, now let's go ahead and get flaps 5. I think that's the airport down here. Yes, I am 20. I'm slowly but surely working towards my ratings to become a real pilot. Alright, that's good there. Let's turn down these displays. We don't need these to be too bright. Alright, now let's go down to flaps 5 speed. 5,000 above. Let's take a look at this here. Oops. Bro, why is this so laggy? Is Google Chrome crashing? Is that what it is? You're starting to get your PPL? Nice, bro. That's awesome. Damn, bro. This says we're on path, but we're definitely not. We're definitely pretty high. We might have to hold at Google. There's a published hold here. It's going to be left turn. So let's go to hold, next hold, Google, here. Let's make sure it's speed 2500, 251 inbound, course of 161. No, it's left turns, and it's 251 is the course. There we go, and we'll execute that. Alright, we're gonna have to hold here for a little bit just to get some altitude, or just to lose some altitude, I should say. Just because we're supposed to be at Google, we're supposed to be at 2,500, and we're at 12,000. So. So I become PPL, but I can't become an airline pilot since the color bad. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. But it's good that you can still fly. You know what I mean? That's good that you can still fly. is a little wonky here, but hopefully it'll fix itself to come back over to Google. Yeah, I think it'll slowly fix itself. That's fine. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and is he trying to go right and then left? Is this what's happening right now? Yeah, bro, this is not right. I programmed the hold and it's doing this, unless I programmed it wrong, but what is happening right now? Is it doing a parallel entry maybe? Maybe that's what it's doing. Maybe it's doing a parallel entry. Oh, you forgot about me? Maybe that's what it's doing? I want to hope that it's doing a parallel approach and that's going to turn back around. Maybe. Maybe that's what it's doing. Nope, it's not doing that at all. Okay. I don't know what hold it's doing, but oh well, I guess. I have no idea what's happening right now. But we're still pretty high. Alright, boys, let's grease it to St. Kitts. I've never been to St. Kitts in the sim, or obviously in real life, but I've never been there before, so this will be an interesting approach, especially at night. My first time. I'm just laughing that this hold is just not what I programmed. All right, let me add in some speed brakes to get this descent rate going. Okay, let's just really get down, because right now it's not doing what I want it to do. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to exit the hold, and let's go direct to Kipper. We'll go direct Kipper, and then we'll hit 2,000 by then, and then we should be on profile. I'm going to go ahead and extend our gear. That'll give us some more drag so we don't overspeed while we do our faster descent. We are looking good. Let's go ahead and get... I don't think I've ever flown with the HUD in with this aircraft. Let's go menu. Let's go HGS. Runway length. That's all set up. That's all set up. HGS modes. Let's go VMC. There we go. And we'll get that armed. We go flaps 15. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut over to the right. I'm going to cut over to the right just a little bit to give us a better angle to do the approach. I'm going to start slowing down. It's going to be 137. Let's go start slowing down here. 137. We got flaps 15. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to go direct to Kipper in 3, 2. Actually, hold on. Get a little bit better of a path going that way. That's good there. Auto. That's good. Let's go execute.
$25.
What the heck? I didn't go direct to it before? Alright, we should be better now. Alright. Let's go flaps 40. What is happening, bro? Okay, can we go direct here? Can you go VNav? Thank you. There we go. Now it's better. Alright, let's go ahead and go to our minimum, or excuse me, our, what is it called? The touchdown zone elevation, which is 50 feet. Okay. Looks like we got some fog in the area, huh? That was not forecast. Okay. Let's get menu, HGS, modes. Let's do IMC. Alright, looks like we're gonna actually have a low visibility approach. We do have the runway in sight though. Just seems like we got some fog in the area that rolled up in on us. It says there's few clouds at 2300. I don't know. Whatever. Alright, here we go. On final approach here, we got flaps 40. Flaps 40, gear down, flaps 40, green light, gear down, 3 green, and speed brake is armed. We're clear to land. Here we go, boys. Let's land into St. Kitts for the first time ever. I think my chat froze. Hold on, guys. Alright, there we go. I think we should be better. My chat froze for a second. Alright guys, here we go on final approach here in St. Kitts. First ever landing in St. Kitts.
Approaching minimum.
I don't know why it's... Jeez. Why did it... I don't... Oh my gosh, dude. I don't understand that.
Approaching minimum.
Okay, stop. This airplane's freaking out already. Oh my gosh, dude. I disconnect autopilot.
1,000
And
minimums.
for the runway site. For the PMDG, when you disconnect, press the disconnect button twice, it shuts off the aura warning. But I guess for this, it disconnects it like re-engages autopilot. So it was trying to get me to do the missed approach already.
500.
Alright, 500.
400.
Is it just me or is this runway just super
300.
dark?
200. 150. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Alright. Let's put away the yes. And we'll taxi in to the gate. Definitely not my best one. Like I said, I'm used to the PMDG where if you double click the autopilot disconnect button, it'll automatically turn off the what's it called? It'll automatically turn off the oral warning that it gives you. Let's see, do I have parking over here? Let's see. I don't know where the terminal is. How do I park here? This is interesting. Let's see, we park here. The plane shook. That was so off center line. Yeah. Yeah, I know. That was pilot error on my part. It all started with the autopilot disconnecting and then it's like is this where it wants me to park? I'm so confused on how they park here. Cause I got a person here. He said bring it closer. I was gonna follow this person, whatever. Straight, 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 straight. Okay, I don't trust this guy either. Alright. Yay, we made it. There we go, guys. We made it. Yeah, on the approach, when I disconnected autopilot, one, it automatically went to the missed approach because the missed approach point was before the runway. So that was a little awkward. I should have done that better. But yeah, when I double click my autopilot disconnect button on the PMDG, it just turns off the aura warning. So that's what I did. But I guess for the IFLY, it re-engages the autopilot. And so I was very confused on the autopilot re-engaging. But oh wow. Let me look at the statistics here. Let's see if I could find a landing rate. Let's see, review flight. Let's take a look. Statistics. Landing rate G-force was 1G. And my landing rate was negative 184. So, I mean, not the best, but certainly not the worst. Negative 184. What do you guys think about that? I think it's pretty solid. But yeah, here we go, guys. We're in St. Kitts. Interesting landing for sure. But yeah, we made it on the ground here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and stopping by and hanging out with us. I really do appreciate you guys being here. We're going to be doing an Allegiant A320 stream on Thursday, so that'll be definitely interesting. Haven't flown A320 in a long time. So we'll be flying that one over to Des Moines for a VATSIM event. Hope you guys enjoyed the rest of your night. I hope you guys have a go, man. Peace out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Peace.